So just very basic stuff. So this is just pretty much what I'm hoping to cover. I think Google Drive is probably the most important one. You know, we may know people that have kids and they're doing online learning and stuff like that. And, you know, Google's usually the easy one to use because it's free to an extent. So some of the things we'll cover is, you know, navigating, how to use it, uploading and downloading a file, sharing a file, using Google Sheets, using Google Docs, and then just open for questions. So just a small intro, you know, if you have a Google or a Gmail account, you have access to hundreds of different applications. Some I've never used before, but they're, you know, even something on like Google Health, you can get like stuff that like, you know, they have contact tracing apps for COVID and everything. It's literally every day they're making something new that you can use with like Google and stuff, which is pretty amazing. It's a really nice free alternative instead of like buying Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel and, Microsoft PowerPoint. Cause you know, that I think it's still like $200 a year or something like that. The files save automatically because, you know, they're synced to the cloud. And along with that, they're accessed from anywhere. I know everybody's always throwing out what's the cloud, and just think of the cloud as its like own persistent, you know, computer that's like housed somewhere and you can access it from anywhere. And that's like a little image of it. And then just some resources, and I can send you guys these slides. Not that they have much information, but it's there. So are there any questions so far?
Nope.
Nope. All right. So I'm just gonna like get right into it. So I'll just like go into Google Drive and we'll start there and then we'll just play around. And again, if anybody has questions, feel free to stop me and, you know, we'll handle it this way. There shouldn't be any bad videos here, hopefully. But this is pretty much like when you first click into like drive.google.com, this is what's going to show up. Obviously, this is my personal one, so I'm not going to go crazy and open up files. But as you can see, like I have, you know, a Word doc in here, a sheet, Google Sheet, which is like Google's version of Excel, another Word doc, and this just shows your quick access, like what you've used recently. There's this menu on the top right that kind of gives you all the different applications. So we have Gmail, you know, Google Drive as we're in now, search, you could just go to google.com, but it does that, you know, and Google owns YouTube. So that's why you can just go to YouTube from here. There's calendars, there's Google Meet, which is pretty much like Zoom for Google. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. You know, if you have a use or if you ever want to try to find like the free version of something you want to use on the computer, most likely Google will have something like it. I will say it's not as easy to use as like the Microsoft stuff, but it's still not that big of a difference of what to use. So we'll just start with a little bit of navigation. So as you can tell, the My Drive just kind of looks like your regular old folder explorer. I am on a Mac, guys, so you guys are probably on PCs, but it's all the same thing. It's just you have your folders, you have your files within your folders, so on and so forth, right? And then you can share stuff. A lot of the times, for example, I was at a wedding last year and the couple wanted to have their video shot on a GoPro. And, you know, they live in Massachusetts, so I didn't want to go and deliver a memory card to them. So I was like, oh, here, just I'll give you a Google Drive shared link. And I gave them a giant folder with a bunch of the files that they wanted. And actually, they're celebrating their anniversary as of a few days ago. So it's all good stuff. So are there any questions so far? Okay. So we'll start with just talk a little more about it. So this is kind of how you navigate it. It has all these folders here. As you can tell, there's like a 10 gigabyte out of 19 gigabyte used little progress bar here. So by default, if you have a Gmail account, you automatically get 20 gigs of cloud storage. So like what that means is you have 20 gigs of like email or 20 gigs of like Google Sheets that you can create, or Google Word docs and things along the lines of that. I think there's a premium version that's, you know, I think they have different tiers of it that you can get more memory if you need to. And so you can buy more storage. You can store stuff. You have your trash here. Let's see, what else do we have? We have help. On the side here, we have also like shortcuts and stuff that you can use. That's kind of customizable. But we'll start by, you know, we'll create a new file right now. So we're going to create a regular Google Doc. And, you know, if you guys have used Microsoft Word before, it should look pretty familiar. You know, you can type here, block. I don't know what I was writing there, but, you know, you have your basic, you know, functions. You can do your bullet points. You can do, you know, it has its own dictionary. Pretty much everything that Microsoft Word has, Google has, or at least, you know, the easy stuff. There might be some other things that I don't use too often with Microsoft Word that it does, that's like only Microsoft has access to it and Google does. But for the most part, if you're gonna write like an essay or write a letter, this should be more than enough, I would say. If you notice, there's this see document change status. So the cool thing about Google Drive too is that like any changes you do, since it's automatic, you actually have a history of it as well. So like you could probably go back and get the old version of this if you like lost something, or if you lose your changes, you're probably going to be able to like get it. So if you notice, it's like current version. If you go back, it's blank now, you know? So that's pretty cool. And you can like restore the version and stuff like that. So a lot of this, like the legwork and the, oh, I lost all my file stuff, it's like out the door with this. Unless Google has like a server crash, which rarely happens. It's probably happened like once in my life, but. And then there's a way, so for sharing it, it's pretty much as easy as like, just save it. And then you can send it as a link. And actually, if you guys have Google accounts, I can probably just write this and you guys should be able to just go to it. You know, if you guys want to on your own time, that should be public now. Let's see, copy link. Oh, only people added. So let's do. Anyone can see the link. All right, so copy link. So if anybody is interested, feel free to, oh, it's the same link, sorry. Feel free to go there, but you know, you'll have access to like look at it and stuff. And it's literally that easy to share something. You can also do it from like the Google Drive and stuff as well. And you can just share this way. Where is it? Share. I think a best practice would be, you know, obviously add your people that you would know. First one's my wife, of course. But you can add anybody who has a Google account. I think if you don't have a Google account, you're going to be able to see it somehow, but you won't be able to edit it and stuff like that. So if possible, just make a Gmail. It makes life a lot easier when using Google Drive, especially for like the kids and stuff like that. You know, it's unprecedented times now for how we're going to be doing our learning and stuff. And it's probably going to be like this for a while. So it's, you know, it's going to be good to help kids get acclimated and using, you know, the resources that are available. So let's see. So that's how you pretty much share. Let's see, what else can we cover? So we did sharing. All right, we can do uploading a file. So let's see how we can go here into the menu and do upload files. And it'll literally take any kind of file. Let's just do this random file here. And then it'll tell you here at the bottom right, it's doing an upload. And you know, this is just a regular QR code for something I was working on. But are there any questions so far? I know I'm moving a little fast, but since we have the whole hour, I figured we can just kind of keep going, and then we'll take time for actual like questions, and we can walk through how to do specific things. But I'm assuming there's no questions now.
Mm-mm.
Okay. All right. So we went through how to use like Google Word or Google, Google Docs. We could talk about how to use Sheets. My wife and I actually use Google Sheets for our budget because it's always good to have that. I won't show you guys that because it's a little inappropriate, but I'll open up a random Google Sheet, and it looks pretty much like Excel as well. You can do cool things like macros, and macros are just recorded functions. So like if you want to, copy a column every time, you can create a macro that does that, or it's pretty cool to do things like that. So you could do your basic, entering data. You can filter. So 1, 2, 3, and you could do your functions the same way as in Microsoft Excel. Just a regular sum function. If you do the equal sign, I will say that's one thing that Microsoft Excel has a little better. It's like, I know that this is the functions tab, but I think Microsoft Excel has it like on the left side, and it's a little more out there, but you just have to kind of hover over and be like, okay, I need a function. So it kind of gives you that same interface, but those are the kind of differences I'm talking about. They do the same thing, but you kind of have to like look a little more to it. It's like going to Marshall's to get clothes versus going just to like Nike or something, because Nike has everything just Nike, but Marshall's has everything. So you'll just have to look a little more, but you'll get it for cheaper, and you'll probably get the same value out of it, which is good. Let's see, what else can we do? So you could star things. Starring is just a way to have it easily accessible. So if you do that, probably just look at start, and it'll show up here and open it that way. So it's pretty seamless. What else can we do in Google Sheets? There's a little bit more advanced stuff that you can do, but I won't get into that too much, because even for the most part, I don't really need much of that. But you can kind of like how Microsoft Excel has like scripting. So scripting is just like using code to like do stuff. You could do the same thing in Google. It just works a little differently. Like I said, it's probably a little overkill for what we're going to go through today. But you can also add add-ons as well. I don't really use them, but these add-ons are like extensions. You know how like when you're browsing the internet, you can use like little applications that helps the internet and that helps your experience with the internet. It's the same thing here. So you can add like apps to your Google Sheets and stuff. I'm not sure which ones are really that useful, but you'll never know if you ever need them or something like that. So are there any questions on like Google Sheets so far?
If I have a question going back on just the sharing from your drive to mine, when I get that, is that read only, or does it become in my Google Drive my document to work on?
That's a good question. So you could specify. So if you, let's see, what was that file I shared with you guys? Actually, let me just click on it myself. Let's go back to the chat. All right, so when you specify share, if it's like restricted to read only, you'll have your own copy to read only in, but you won't be like, if you edit it, I won't see those changes. But if it's like openly editable to everybody, it's as if we're working in the same document. So let's see. So editors can change permissions and share. Viewers and commenters can see option, download, print, and copy. So if I remove this, you wouldn't be able to like update it or anything like that. But if I add it like that, then you will. And it's pretty much that seamless. If you're doing like a public link, let's double check. I think for public links, you probably won't be able to edit it. You guys can test me on it, but I'm pretty sure for a good practice, oh, you can edit, you can specify it here. So like right here, now you guys can edit it and stuff like that. And it's as if we have the same file. So if somebody updates it now, I'll probably see it once I sync, or it's going to sync automatically if there's changes to it, which is pretty nice. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, and just follow up on what you were just saying. Does it leave an archived copy on yours, an untouched one? Once you get an edited one from, and you have that going, is there always an original in yours?
I won't say there's always an original, but you can go back to the original. I know that sounds kind of contradictory, but it's more of a sense of like, because the way that question was described is that, oh, there's a separate file. I wouldn't say it's that. I would say it's the same file, but you can go back to your original version if you want to, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So moving back to Google Sheets, let's see what else is useful. Of course, you can create other workbooks. You can navigate that way. The same copy and paste stuff works. So I don't know if you guys know the shortcuts, but Control C is copy, Control V is paste. Or you can do it through edit. And I think that kind of covers the basics. There's some other things here that you can like do that kind of fosters more collaboration. Because like when you think about it, if you're working on a Google document and you're going to be working with a bunch of other people, sometimes it would be nice to say, you know, oh, this was changed. You know, it's nice to say, okay, so, you know, Jonathan put a comment today saying that he changed this. You know, for example, let's say, I know I keep going back to the kids, but like, let's say they're doing like a group project or something like that. Maybe the kids could use the comment section and be like, oh yeah, I worked on this part and I worked on that part. So that's kind of useful to use. So that's the same thing. You can insert links. This is basic filtering stuff. A lot of these stuff are just your basic editors, so you can like make the text bigger. Let's see, what else do we have? And I think you can do oversells. Okay. So I think that kind of covers it. Is there anything else that anybody wants to see with Google Sheets? We'll come back to it, of course, too. But just wanted to see if there's anything anybody has any questions or confusion on. Okay. All right, and then we'll move on to, so we did Sheets, we did Drive, we did Word. Let's see what else we have. What else could we do here? Let's see, what else did I want to, well, I don't really use Google Forms too much, but this is actually useful as well. So like, if you want to create surveys and stuff like that, you can use this. It's literally the same application as Microsoft Forms. I don't know if you guys have used that, but this is kind of nice because it's an easy way to create a survey. This is actually my first time using it, but you know, it's pretty intuitive where you can say, okay, you know, just click on the settings and see what I'm looking for. And I'm not really 100% sure how to share it, but I'm sure you can just add that somewhere here, or responses. Maybe you could specify people to add responses for. So that's Google Forms. Oh, I didn't really talk about the top here, but you can edit the name of any files up here, and they all follow the same format. So if we jump to spreadsheets, you'll see it there. We jump to this, we'll see it in the top left as well. This J here just talks about my account. So like when it's synchronized, you have all that at your disposal. A few other little apps, let's see. I know I'm a little all over the place, so I apologize, guys. But when in doubt, just jump back and come to this little menu here, and it'll kind of give you everything you can. And I haven't really used Classroom much yet, so I'm not sure what this is. So we could take a quick look to see. I'm assuming it's like their own version of Blackboard environment and stuff like that. So let's see how this looks, but don't see any classes. And I'm assuming this is probably like to create, I don't know if you guys ever used Blackboard. I mean, that was kind of when I was in school. And I guess it's just like one environment where you can add people, and you have your students and your teachers, and you add your classworks. So I'm hoping that schools are trying to use something like this, or, are finding ways to do it. But, apparently Google's created this as well, to create like a classroom environment for like each, course or whatnot. Let's see. You can find out what's shared with me if you just click here. You can check your trash. You can see what your storage is looking like, so you can clear out your storage. This is that really big video archive I was talking to you about my my friend's wedding. It took forever to get there, but we got it there. I won't download that because that is a long one, but you can right click and just download anything if you need to. There's download. And I don't know if you guys probably can't see it, but it's showing the little download car MV4. And then that'll be local to my computer. So the only thing that one has to keep in mind when working in the cloud is you have access to it because you're connected to the internet, and you're connected to, that server and stuff like that. So if you did ever need to pull it down to a specific computer for some reason, you can download it. The good thing is that Google Drive actually has like an application that you can use on your desktop, kind of like, I'm using Zoom desktop version right now because that was the only way I was able to share my screen. Somebody wrote in the, oh, that's awesome that Meriden School System uses Google Classroom for distance learning. That's good to know. Thank you, Jessica. So they're ahead of the curve. They're more ahead of the curve than I am. So I was talking about like downloading files specifically. For the most part, I don't really need to download files too often, just because if I have it in my Google account, maybe to save memory or space or something like that on my cloud storage. But for the most part, you could just leave the stuff out there. It's pretty secure, as you can tell, because Google has that little lock there. That means that all the information on there is encrypted. Not that we have to get too far into that, but I wouldn't put social security numbers or anything up there, but I wouldn't put that on a computer anyways. Oh, sorry, that was an alarm. But for the most part, I put like some personal information up here, so I'm not too worried about it, about the security of it, because I think it's pretty secure. Let's see, what else do we have? Let me show you guys that link I had here. One's just a YouTube video. It's like a 18-minute video on how to use Google Drive if anybody's interested. And then this is just a support site. There's a lot going on here, but for the most part, if you don't have to read every single thing, but if you search, like within here, it says, let's see, create a new sheet. You could find almost anything, at least that can be done in Google Drive that way. Or look, they have a switch from Microsoft kind of thing, and it kind of gives you like a guide for each one. I haven't really read through these, but if there's a wealth of information out there, so if anybody wants to share that, or wants to take it upon themselves to figure out how to do it, you're more than welcome to using the support site. Like I said, if you search think of just Googling Google, I guess, for whatever you need to find, and it should be, it should be attainable that way. Let's go back to Drive. Let's see what else we can cover. We've gone through the folders. I've navigated, we've used Google Sheets, we've used Google Word, Google Slides. I guess we can probably leave the rest of the time for just questions, or if you guys have anything you can come up with in your mind that was like, oh, I don't think this is possible, we can do that, or however you guys want to handle this, we can go about it.
Anybody has any questions about the specifics that Jonathan just covered, or would like to add on anything that he mentioned?
Yeah, I'll go back to like video view.
Nice. Now, I have a question, Jonathan. I've had to use in the past also Google Voice. How does that work? Just so it's, I found it very interesting. I didn't get to use it a lot, but I know people use it and it's very helpful for people that don't want to use maybe their personal phones, or even for work and other specific, other reasons.
Yeah. So I've used Google Voice previously. Think of it as a way to create, not a fake phone number, but a internet phone number. And it's pretty useful because, like you said, for international calls too, it's like you don't even need the calling card anymore because you can call that way. And the way it works is kind of like a prepaid model where you say, okay, I'm going to allocate this amount of money to it, and you can make calls that way. I haven't really used any of the phone apps. The only time I've used it was literally through the computer, but a lot of the times it's probably offered through Gmail. Let me see if I can actually get to it. Mine might not work anymore because I didn't put anything into it, but let me see if I can find it here. And if you hear panting, that's my dog, so I apologize.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, he's a needy one sometimes, but he's a good pup.
Oh.
Google Voice. One second.
No, that's fine. And there's so many other Google applications that to cover in 1 hour would be just, I think, very challenging. There's so many things that Google offers.
It literally everything. It's kind of crazy. Apple and Amazon are pretty much ruling the world, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. Who knows?
Yes. Do any of you have any questions specifically about any other app, maybe a Google app that you have heard about or know that people and your friends, family might use and you're curious about learning? Maybe Jonathan can show us if he knows a little bit about them.
No, not at this time.
All right, so I found the Google Voice thing. Let me
Nice.
Yeah, it's a little harder to find. I think it's because they're probably pushing Google Hangouts and stuff like that a lot more. So let me go back to Zoom.
That one too is very interesting, Google Hangout. Do you know a little bit? Can you show us a little bit about that one too?
Yeah, I can definitely show you that. So and this is the downside of Google. With all the stuff that they create stuff so quickly that some of the other stuff goes out of date, or some of these, or like we'll get into that shortly, and you'll see what I'm talking about with Google Hangouts, because like now it's becoming Google Duo, which is like the new one and stuff like that. So if you notice, I'm in Google Voice right now. It was a little difficult for me to find. I'm assuming it's because since I haven't used it in years. If you guys please do not remember my sister's phone number, she'll kill me. There was no way I could have hid that though, or no clever way I could have hidden that. But you have your basic interface. I'll try to call myself now, see if it works. I'm assuming since I don't have any minutes, It shouldn't work, but we'll see. 3978851.
I actually
Yeah.
for my job, and you don't need to put in minutes anymore. It's a free.
Oh,
So,
it is? Oh, I didn't know that because I was getting I used to have prepaid minutes for when I was making calls to my family in Dominican Republic, but I haven't called them in a while, so it just went out. But I don't know why it's not working now. It's probably not working now because we're actually on a video call ourselves.
Yes.
So, but in theory, what would happen is you can call that and my phone would ring and I guess I would be narcissistic and talk to myself.
So for that, Jonathan, just so people know, you only need to have your Google account. And after that, how do you create the account for Google Voice? Do you have to specifically go and create, name it? How does that work?
I think for the most part, when you're setting up your account, Google's very, very, not invasive, but they're very thorough. So they ask you a bunch of information and stuff like that. And I think as soon as you create your account, you have access to this. The only thing is, if you're not using it, you kind of have to find it a little bit. So like the way I had to find it, which, if I use it more often, it would probably be easier. I had to like go to like the more apps and like scroll down. And there's probably an easier way to do it, but since I haven't used it in forever, or like, I guess to them it's like ever, I went all the way down here to find it. I know it seemed like a lot, but the good thing with Google is whenever you use it once, you should be able to have access to it again pretty easily. So like, I'm hoping that they're good and they'll show up here. I guess not, but in theory, if you use something more often, you should be able to access it from here. But right off, right off the bat, you have access to all this as soon as you create a Gmail account. There is like a G Suite premium account. I'm not really sure what it offers specifically, but I'm assuming, more cloud storage, probably other applications that would be useful that we can't even think of. But for the most part, the free or the free version or the freemium version, I guess you can call it, for Gmail should be more than enough, and you'll get access that way. So anytime you want to find an application that you don't see in your like here, you can just go to more from Google, or you can probably just Google like Google Voice.
Jonah,
And it
don't you have
probably
to
get you in
be?
that way. Oh, sorry, Neil.
No, I was just saying, don't you have to be a little careful of the amount of apps out there, and some that are have malware in them? I mean, it's tempting to just go by a description, but don't you have to do a little due diligence before you bring something to your machine?
It kind of depends. So for the most part, the most common ways to like get malware are like phishing emails, right? So it's like some random email sends you an email saying, oh, you need to update your account, click this link. So those are definitely bad. But for the most part, and this is speaking in an ideal world, if you're working in like Google Drive, you would hope that you wouldn't click random links from somebody, or like if you are collaborating with somebody, I would hope that you guys added each other the proper way instead of just giving a random link that way. Because yes, that is susceptible to like malware. For the most part, these Google apps that are like built into Google that aren't they're called third party. So these are first party. So this is, if it's built from Google, I definitely agree. Definitely keep an eye out for like malware, but they go through such a rigorous process to be able to get these things up there safely that I'm pretty confident if I'm using something straight from just the Google suite. But like I said, there are add-ons and stuff, like I mentioned when we were going through the Google Sheets. There are add-ons, and some of those are created by other people. So those I would be very scared of using if I didn't vet them properly. The good thing is that I think a lot of them have reviews and stuff. And if they're flagged, Google will take them down from the store. But again, I do agree. It definitely do some due diligence. It's Google's not the end all be all, but for the most part, if you're doing just their first party stuff, I'm pretty confident in it. But these aren't created by Google. It's created by, other people. So some of them, this one has, wow, almost 7 million ratings. So I would probably read some of these, or like a lot of the times, like if I'm ever concerned, I'll like do a quick Google search of like, oh, is this safe? Is there malware or something like that? So that's kind of the easy way to check for something. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And the URL is another good way to check if it's legit.
Yeah. A lot of the times, there's like really basic tricks that like people do where, let's say we have a URL here, test.com. You can make that look like something else completely. And you can make it look like, www dot, google.com, right? So like that's how people get tricked into like phishing and stuff like that. So a lot of the times to solve that, you can like hover over it. Or you can like right click and view. I mean, it was probably a bad example to show it from like Google Sheets, but what Neil was talking about, something like that. So that's like a URL spoof. So it's like tricking you into thinking, oh, this is google.com, but you could probably be clicking on a link to some kind of malware or something like that. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's kind of scary. So that was a great question. Are there any other questions? Oh, we want to talk about Google Hangouts and stuff, but are there any questions before we jump to that? All right, let's see. So Google Hangouts used to be, well, I guess it still is like the video message, like the video calling and stuff like that. And you can send messages and stuff too. It shows all your contacts and things along the lines of that. You could do phone calls as well, which is kind of weird because then you have Google Voice as well. It's so, like I said, like the plethora of stuff that Google offers is awesome, but then sometimes there's duplication. Sometimes there's newer stuff that does what the old stuff does and other things. So like Google Hangouts was like supposed to be like iMessage for Google pretty much. And I think what's happening with it now is I think you can still do these things, but now what they're trying to push is Google Duo. So Google Duo is like Google's answer to Zoom. Because if you notice at the start of the pandemic, and we're on a Zoom call ourselves, it's Zoom dominated. It's like everybody was using Zoom for meetings and things along the lines of that. But, there's that whole free 40-minute limit thing, and Google Duo or Google Meet wanted to like stray away from that. So Google Hangouts is here. And then there's also, like I said, Google Duo, which is strictly video, but it does kind of the same thing as Hangouts. And then there's Google Meet, which is kind of like, I think, Google Duo as well, but you can do like kind of like the Zoom kind of call where you'll just send people a link and they'll go that way. So if you notice, we're on Google Duo. We could start a call. I won't bother these guys now because they're actually working. But if we go to Google Meet, again, it's the same thing. So like you can create a meeting this way. So like if somebody asks you, oh, I want to do a video through Google, it's like, well, we have these 3 different options. How do you want to do it? If you're going to do it just with like a person that you already have in your contacts and you want to use like your phone, Google Duo might be your best bet. If you're going to use your computer, either Google Duo or Hangouts, or if you're going to do a Zoom type of meeting, you're going to do Google Meet, because then you could just send out a link. And, it was pretty easy for me to join this meeting, and it would be along the lines of that. So that was a great question. And I hope that kind of covers it. If you guys have any other questions about Google Meet or Google Hangouts or Google Duo or anything Google, feel free to shoot them out. If you don't want to talk, you could definitely just write it into the Zoom window and stuff as well. So there's, you know, I have the chat open as well. So are there any other questions?
I have one more question, and this
Okay.
could be just personally for you. Which of all the array of Google applications are the ones that you have used the most and could recommend to all of us, maybe?
I use Google Sheets a lot. Like I said, I literally do our monthly budget with my wife with it. I use Gmail a lot because I have to check email. I didn't want to go into Gmail just because I'm one of those that has a bunch of unread emails that I know that bothers some people. So I was like, let's stay away from Gmail from now. But I use Gmail the most. I use Google Sheets a lot. And then I just use Google Drive a lot too whenever I need to like, a lot of the times my friends are like, oh, I need, you know, this video sent to me. And I was like, all right, we can't send it through email. It's too big. So I would say, all right, here's a Google Drive link and I'll post the video there. And then I'll delete it after just to save space and things along the lines of that. So I think those are the three I use the most. And I try to use Google Calendar to get organized, but I don't for the most part. I use Google Maps on my phone personally, but never on the computer, to be honest. And I think that kind of covers it. See, I've never even used Jamboard. I'm assuming this is like some kind of music thing. But there's so many things. And like a lot of the times, even when just starting out, just use it for like one thing that you want to use it for. And then like eventually, you know, you branch out and go into more things like that. Any other questions?
Any more questions around before Jonathan starts showing us other things? No, I'm just kidding. I think we covered a lot. And like we said, Google has so many applications. And like Jonathan mentioned, some that even duplicate the same features or have the same features. But it's feel free to play with it. It's a very good tool to have when you use your Drive or you use, you know, either Google Voice or Meets. It's good to start playing with it and see how it works. And also, you know, just tutorials in general, because there's very specific things that you might want to, you know, learn of a specific application, and you can always find YouTube tutorials that can help you out with specific things like that. Or the link that Jonathan sent to us as well. If you could send that link, that will be very helpful, Jonathan, the one that has all the Google questions and resources that we can use.
I'll probably send the slides over to you guys. I mean, not that they're anything groundbreaking or anything. Or maybe I could just share them this way.
That'll be perfect.
Yeah.
Nice.
I have a question. There's a presentation tool like PowerPoint, right?
Yep, slides.
Right, and you did those slides in that, right?
Yep. Yeah, I figured it was fitting to use the Google equivalent for the presentation.
Sure. It was.
And a lot of the time, so like that's a good example. I've never used slides before, but since I've used PowerPoint, you kind of have an idea of like how you already use it, and you kind of just finagle with it that way. So that's like the good thing about it. But there was one thing I saw that I wasn't a big fan of. Not that I hated it, but it's PowerPoint has a lot of those flowchart images that are like, I don't know how to explain it, but they have like those little icons that you can like just kind of plop in to show stuff. I didn't really see those in slides, but there's an easy way to look up stuff in slides. Like you can literally like find, we'll go through that now. We can find that in the internet, and that was kind of cool. Let's see, let's start share again. All right, share. All right, so so we'll go back to slides. So we're in slides here. So what I was talking about was, so you can insert. So normally there's I wish I had Microsoft PowerPoint here, but normally there's like on top of like shapes and stuff like that, there's like little like icons that you can add, and I didn't really see those here. So that's the only thing I noticed from like the big obvious thing. But you can literally search from the web and like say Google Cloud icon, and you can find it that way. So that was kind of nice, but it does take some getting used to. Normally you're like, oh, I can I can just use everything that's built into here. But I think what Google does is they try to give you like a bare bones feeling of what you need, and then for other special advanced uses, somehow, it's kind of hard to like intuitively find it like this, but somehow it'd be like, oh, you're looking for an icon, so hopefully somebody would find it, oh, let's search on the web and we can find it that way. But I know that's the one thing I would say is not as intuitive as PowerPoint, but it does, it is pretty easy to make a slide. You could still, I don't know, I know what transitions are, sorry. That's like a cool, like, transition from slide to slide. But, you can do themes and things along the lines of that. So a lot of the things that PowerPoint already does, Google Slides does, but there's those really special nuanced things that Google could probably do, but you'll have to like find a little more. And I honestly, it's kind of a common theme with Google, just because I've noticed that with like Android phones as well, that they can do everything, but you have to like kind of not know where to look, but like, find out how to look for it, instead of like making it like a little more like, I don't want to say a little more user-friendly in a sense. But this is also coming from an Apple fanboy, so I can't really, I can't really say. Let me pause the share. Oh, somebody wrote something in the chat. Yeah, no worries, Carissa. Let's see. I'm gonna stop the share. But so that was a very good question for Google Slides. But yeah, it was another thing. It's a lot of the times, if you're looking for an application, just go on Google and be like, Google application equivalent of whatever. And then if they have it, it should be pretty easy to find. If not, then we got to write them a letter or something.
Perfect. Any more questions that you guys might have for Jonathan? I think we're good. I think we covered as much as we could in this very little time frame. Great job, Jonathan. Thank you so much once again for volunteering for our Day of Caring and being an instructor of this Google Shared Drive application skill training. And also thank you to all of you for joining us today, taking the time, waking up early in the morning to make it to this meeting. So I think that's all. And if you have any other questions, feel free to email me. You have my email. If you need any of the material that Jonathan sent us, the link for the presentation, you would like to see it over again, you can always reach out and I will make sure I get that to you.
Yeah, it's in the chat window as well. So
yes, it is. So you guys can also copy that and review it on your own time. Thank you once again, and I think that's everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you for organizing this, you guys. This was awesome.
No, thank you for being part of this, Jonathan and Briam and everybody, all the volunteers. We appreciate it so much. Thank you.